In 1974, I was 14 years old. I was living in New York City on the island of Manhattan, where I'm from. And in June of that year, I was scheduled to take the Regents. The Regents, some people from New York, the Regents are New York State's version of the FCATs. That year, I was scheduled to take 2 exams. One in 9th grade social studies, and the other in 9th grade math. Now, the social studies was not going to be a big problem. It wasn't my favorite subject. I didn't put too much effort into it, but I fully expected to pass. But math, that was another story. Whether or not I passed the Math Regents exam would determine whether or not I would pass 9th grade math. So I was a little freaked out because I was really on the borderline. The only way I was going to pass 9th grade algebra was if I passed the Regents. Well, I lived in a neighborhood, I lived in a community in New York City where failure was not something we took a lot of pride in. My father expected me to excel academically. I hung out with a group of girls who wore their A's and B's as a badge of honor. It was not acceptable in my neighborhood to get C's and D's. And so I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be so freaked out, I'm not going to be able to show my face in the neighborhood. Well, my father is originally from the South. He's from South Carolina. And in the 1950s, he moved to New York City. He was raised Southern Baptist, and he came to New York City through the whole bohemian lifestyle there. And he was searching and searching for himself, and he decided, oh, I like Buddhism, so he was going to be Buddhist for a while. And then he was searching and searching and searching some more, and then he found my mother. And then he kept searching and searching, and he said, you know what? I don't think I really know the answer to much in life. I think I'm agnostic. Well, by the time I was ready to take the Math Regents in 1974, that man had become a full-blown atheist. Me? I prayed. I literally, no lie, got down on my knees in my bedroom, looked at the ceiling, and asked for a miracle. Yes, may I please pass the Math Regents? Well, wouldn't you know, a few days later, when I'm sitting in the living room with my father watching the evening news, the newscaster says something that makes me rethink my father's position on religion. Apparently, someone has stolen all of the answers to all 21 Regents exams that were scheduled for that year, in June of 1974. No, it wasn't me. Of the 21 exams, 9 were canceled. 1, 9th grade social studies. The other, 9th grade math. I had a great summer. I went on to the 10th grade with my peers, and we now had to take 10th grade geometry. Well, I failed. You see, math has been one of my threads. It's been one of my challenges, one of my struggles that has repeated itself throughout the course of my life. And I've been on the planet now for a solid 50 years. And so I remember thinking, great, you can run, but you can't hide. I got out of taking the Regents in the 9th grade, but I failed 10th grade math. So when all my friends went on to the 11th grade, I went with them, but they went on to take trigonometry, and I had to repeat 10th grade math. I remember when I was your age, as I was growing up, and I remember saying to my father, Dad, He was my primary caregiver. And I remember saying, you know, Dad, I'd really love to be an architect when I grow up. And my father said to me, Gina, that's great. You know, I grew up in New York City, also known as the Valley of Tall Buildings. And I was surrounded by all those beautiful buildings. And my father said, Gina, sure, that's great. You can be an architect, but you know, architects really need to know math. And I thought, really? You have to know math to be an architect? And I did some research, and sure enough, in order to design safe buildings that stay up and don't fall down for hundreds of years, you have to be able to do some measurement and some calculation. So I said, okay, well, never mind. Oh, I know. I want to be a psychologist. Okay, that's it. I want to be a psychologist. I thought that would be so cool. Sitting in a chair, listening to people's problems all day, helping them out. And my father said, Gina, that's great. But, you know, in order to be a psychologist, the kind of psychologist that you want to be, a PhD, you're going to have to go all the way to the PhD level. You're going to have to know statistics, you're going to have to do research, and that involves math. And it's not that you're not good in math, you just have to apply yourself. He said the same thing to me when I wanted to be an architect. It's not that you can't be good in math, you just have to apply yourself. Well, by the time my senior year came around, I wasn't really interested in any profession. I wasn't interested in much of anything. I had a bad attitude. I started cutting classes, started hanging out with my friends who weren't cutting classes, who actually had free time, but I was cutting classes. Woohoo! And so while they prepared to graduate high school in June of 1977, I prepared for summer school. In the fall of that year, without too much pomp and circumstance, no cap and gown, no people cheering me on, no large audience watching me get my degree, my high school diploma, I went to the secretary in the administration office of Seward Park High School, and I picked up my diploma and I went home. My mother said, well, you don't have to go to school if you don't want to, but if you're living with me, you do have to work. So I had gone to community college, testing the waters, and something I should tell you, I was actually very young when I graduated from high school. I was only 16 years old. Despite my thread, my challenge, my struggle in math, I had actually skipped, back in the days when they were still skipping people, I had skipped the 8th grade. And because I'm born in December at the end of the year, I was 2 years chronologically behind everyone else. So all of my peers were 18, and I was 16, which is really kind of young to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. So I bounced around, signed up for community college because, why? They didn't have any standardized tests. Yay, I knew that I had a history. I had this thread of not performing well on standardized tests. I was tired of feeling stupid. I was tired of feeling embarrassed. So I cut classes, then my mother found me a job, and I worked for the city of New York, where my mother worked. I mean, she went out and found me a job. And it was kind of interesting. I was now 17 years old, and I was working in the topographical bureau. This is where all the engineers work, and they decide about all the public works in New York City. And so I had an interesting year. I was a secretary for them, and it was like working in a room full of uncles, and they really gave me a lot of good support. And they started to talk to me about the importance of going back to school. And I was really dreading it because I could not perform well on the math section of a standardized test. Well, my parents got divorced, and my father had a new girlfriend who was an accountant. And at night, she was getting her bachelor's degree in psychology, and she encouraged me. She was going to Hunter College, and she encouraged me to go back to school. And I said, Pat, I can't take the college entrance exam because I'm just going to fail miserably. She says, Gina, just give it a shot. So I took the college entrance exam for Hunter College, and I did fabulous on every part except the math. I failed miserably. So now, this started when I was 14, when I was in the 9th grade, and then in the 10th grade, and then the 11th grade, and then community college, and now, I'm 18 years old, and I still haven't learned the math. Well, something was really wonderful about Hunter College, because in their admissions letter to me, they said, Miss Greenlee, we believe you can do college level work. Moreover, we believe that you can excel. You just need a little hand-holding and math. And guess what? We're going to give it to you. We welcome you into our 4-year college, but you will have to remediate math. And what that meant was I was going to have to spend a whole year taking math without credit. And you know what math? What math do you think I was learning? Algebra. What else? What math do you think I was learning? Geometry. Okay? Trigonometry, all the math that I didn't get. But the wonderful people at the admissions office gave me that opportunity. I went on to get a bachelor's degree in English, and I went on to get a master's degree in education, where I aced graduate level statistics, research methods, and I graduated with honors. My father, may he rest in peace, was right. Yeah, I can do math. I can do math. I just have to apply myself. I'd like to invite you now to take your threads. Does everybody have their threads, as Miss Marianne Lake? Terrific. And as you take your threads off your bag, your beautiful ribbons, I want you to consider your threads. What are your threads? Now, threads are not only challenges that repeat themselves, that take on pattern. They're also our strength. Yes, I had a lot of problems in math, but I can do math. I just have to take that extra step and apply myself. So one of my strengths, another one of my threads, is my ability to achieve whatever goal it is I set my mind on, to persevere. Take out your thread and think about, what are some of your threads? What are some of your challenges that have repeated themselves over the course of your young lives? But also, what are some of the strengths that you've used over time to influence? And oh, by the way, what are some of the strengths that you've kept hidden? So today, as we think about making choices, as we think about how the choices we make today can influence our lives tomorrow, I'd like to invite you to think about your strengths. I have a lot of strengths, but one of my challenges is that I tend to want to do everything alone. I forget that I have a lot of help. There's a cliche, there's strength in numbers, and there really is. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I'd like to invite you to turn to the person on your left in each of your rows and connect your threads. Just turn to your left. Sometimes we need help. We need to reach out, and it's important not to just sit, but to ask for help. To ask for help and not just assume it's going to come to you. I got help. I got help from the engineers, the city of New York. I got help from my father's girlfriend. I got help from the admissions office at Hunter College. I got help from the amazing professors. Look around. Now, some of you obviously you came with people that you knew, that you're close to, but now I want you to expand your vision. I want you to look around. I want you to make a connection. In the same way you made a connection with your thread, I want you to visually make a connection. Just turn around and see someone that perhaps you haven't noticed before. Maybe this is someone that's going to sit next to you in one of the workshops. Maybe this is someone whose path you're going to cross when you go to one of the booths. Maybe this is someone you saw out in the parking lot and you exchanged a smile, but you didn't say anything. Make that connection and see how strong you are and that you're not alone. As you go out through your day, Remember your threads. Remember the things that challenge you, but remember the opportunities that you're also presented with. And as the thread moves through your hands, I want to let it move through your hands. Because now you have all of this energy from this collective, and that is very powerful. And as it passes through your hands, think about the threads, think about your choices. This is all of your energy. This is all of your power. Look at what we represent. This is a sacred object. Remember, you are not in this alone. And remember, whatever choices you've made in your young life, if you're my age, or in your young life if you are still a young person, if you failed a class, if you don't perform well on the FCATs, it's not a death sentence. You can make a different choice, just as I have. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
If you want to go far, go together.